have the round 4 draw as well was made last night. There's a lot of obviously either or matches here because of all the postponements that Sarah just gave us, but we've got Rochdale or York Acorn. Do you want to do them?
Okay. So it's Rochdale or York Acorn against the Army, Whitehaven against Dewsbury, North Wales against Hunslet, Sheffield against Halifax, which should be a good one, Workington or West Burling against Doncaster, Bradford against Underbank, Featherstone against Barrow or the London Scholars, London against York, again another good one, Swinton against the Lee Minor Rangers, Lee against Batley, Siddle against Keighley or Newcastle, and Widnes against Oldham.
Yeah, those games are going to be played in a couple of weekends' time, so obviously getting those rearranged fixtures in next weekend is a priority. Any upsets that you see potentially brewing in those games? I mean, North Wales against Hunslet, they're in the same division. So would Workington and Doncaster if they played each other. So it's hard to see any obvious potential upsets, isn't it, from that list?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the Army possibly against Rochdale.
I mean, those Fijian wingers, they're certainly...
Well, this is it, that's what I'm thinking.
...doing the business, aren't they? And actually, with the famously large Fijian population in Rochdale, they might actually get out and support those Fijian wingers. So you never know. Yeah, that's a good shout. That's not a bad shout for a potential upset. I'm struggling to see any others, but there is some cracking fixtures. You'd think London v York might be one, but the BBC tend to go with a community club for as long as they can, so I suspect they're going to pick Bradford versus Underbank for their coverage, or maybe the Siddle versus Keighley or Newcastle game. We'll see.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, let's move on to our guesses for round 3 of the Super League. It's round 3 of Super League then, coming up this weekend, and we'll predict all the games and assume that Storm Dennis isn't going to prevent any of them from going ahead, but we don't know for sure. At least one of them can't be prevented by Storm Dennis, I don't think, because I don't think it's going to reach the south of France, so that's a bonus. But we'll start on Thursday night, as we always do, 7:45pm kickoff. Sky's televised game. It is Wigan hosting the Toronto Wolfpack, so Wigan's first ever game against the Canadian side, and I'm reasonably confident.
What are you going to go for, Mark?
Well, I'm going to go for Wigan by 18. I think we've not looked great in attack so far, but by the same token, I don't think we've tried a lot. I don't think we've tried to do a great deal, and we've still not been outscored in tries in any of the games that we've played. So I think we should have the wood over Toronto side that's still finding their way in Super League, and I've only named a 19-man squad for this match, so clearly still having problems there getting men on the pitch. And in that 19-man squad is Gaz O'Brien, who has been injured. Obviously, Sonny Bill's on paternity leave now. He did make a visit to Wigan this week, actually. Last week, and did some stuff with the Community Foundation and with Thomas Luluai, who he knows from playing for New Zealand with, and actually it turns out that they went to school together and played at the same age groups all the way coming up and that sort of stuff as well, so that was really interesting. And then they let a load of small children ask them questions, which was also, interesting. So yeah,
I can imagine.
But he had his visit to Wigan, but just a week early. But Wigan by 18, I think we've got to have the edge over Toronto. What do you think?
Yeah, I've gone Wigan by 12, actually, because, Toronto scored a few points last week. Sandy reckons that they're improving every week. So, you lot are pretty ill-disciplined at the minute, so they'll pick up a few penalties there.
I think we have to make some changes to the pack. I know the young kids have been really impressive, and Havard's playing really well, and so's Liam Byrne, but they're both also giving away penalties, and I don't know if we've not got the rate of rotation right or what, but you're right, our discipline is off, and it's you're going to get the odd high shot from O'Loughlin, just like you're going to Toronto if from Wilkin. These players haven't managed to fix that in the game for nearly 20 years, so that's not going to start now. But these young kids, need to get it taken out of the game, and maybe getting dropped is the way to sort of teach them. Right, Friday night's games. 7:45pm kickoff on Friday night in Leeds versus Hulkingston Rovers. Could be a relegation battle game already at this stage of the season. We never know. What do you think?
I've gone for Rovers by 10.
Wow.
We've played both of them, and to be honest, they were poles apart. Leeds looked devoid of everything. Rovers had enthusiasm. I think that they've got a good team spirit. I think that they'll, as I've said, struggle as the season goes on, but I think we're still early enough in the season that they'll get the 2 points over Leeds.
Oh, and the training ground's flooded as well, and we know that causes Leeds to nearly get relegated, so there's that to I was sort of thinking
Dom's excuses.
I was sort of thinking about these games and kind of thinking about these teams that had the week off, didn't play the games, have obviously got a little bit more opportunity to prepare in a way for this round of fixtures. So I'm going to give Leeds a narrow win here. But what you've said makes sense.
With extra preparation is that it doesn't matter how long Richard Agar has to coach a team, it's still not going to work.
No, but I actually think that Luke Gale's having quite a lot of influence on the attack in this Leeds side, and it did not come to pass against your guys because your pack just absolutely bullied them. I don't think that KR have the same capabilities in the forward pack to dominate the Leeds pack. I actually think the Leeds pack should go well against the KR pack, and that's why I'm thinking they'll just about edge it overall, even though KR did play some nice stuff against your guys, like you say, and played with a lot of passion. I think Leeds by 2.
I suppose also, I've not heard whether Quinlan's got a keeping him out injury.
Good point. Yeah, that's why these speculative guesses that we make ahead of getting the squads is always leaves us with opportunity for a cut on our face, doesn't it?
It does. Shall I move on to Friday? Salford against Huddersfield, which is the televised match. I have gone for a Huddersfield win, but not by much, just by 6 points. It's one of those that's difficult to call, really. Because of Huddersfield not playing last week. They had the great result away at Catalan, but then we don't know sort of what their follow-up's going to be from it. So, that's why I've gone that way.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I've gone Huddersfield by 8. I think Salford obviously won last week. They were very much off the pace against St Helens. And last week they were tested by a side brand new into Super League that don't have, players, a full squad of players that are necessarily hardened at Super League level, and had some injury problems during that game to deal with, and they still only pulled out from them in the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. So there is that, and then there's a short turnaround aspect. Huddersfield will have had 2 weeks, almost a day short of 2 weeks, where Salford will have had 6 days. So I think we still have to say how impressive Huddersfield were against Catalans. So I just expect them to win based on that form going into these games. So Huddersfield by 8. On to Saturday's game in the south of France, Catalans versus Castleford. What have you got for this one?
I've gone for Castleford by 4. Again, it's a tough one to call. You could argue Castleford, they didn't really impress much against Toronto, if I'm being honest. Yes, they scored a few points, but
Yeah, the second half they were a bit nothing, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they penaltied themselves a win against you guys, but then Catalan were distinctly awful against Huddersfield, as we've said. So, and have only had that one game. So again, it's a tricky one to call. How about you?
I'm going to go with Catalans. I think they still need to make that bounce back performance from that first game, and I did kind of anticipate that they would do that against Wakefield. So I'm going to tip them to do that again this week, but not quite so convincingly as I thought they might have beaten Wakefield. So I've got Catalans by 4. I just think that they were so. Although one thing I did note from the We Play League documentary series is just how uninspiring Steve McNamara was in the dressing rooms after that win at the Nou Camp. It was like the most boring congratulating his team speech I've ever seen delivered. Now I don't know if he just wasn't acting naturally because there was cameras on that moment and stuff, whereas normally in the dressing room there wouldn't be, but that was weird. So maybe I'm wrong with him being able to get the players fired up, but hopefully the players can do that for themselves. So I've got Catalans by 4. Right, on to Sunday.
Yep.
The biggest game of the weekend, probably, and it's just a real shame that they didn't have the foresight for this one to be on TV, although I suppose it would have been 3 straight weeks for both of these two sides, so maybe that was thought about as well in the scheduling. But Hull FC versus...
I would have actually thought of that.
Well, maybe not, yeah. Because Saints are on a hell of a lot anyway this year. But Hull FC versus St Helens, you'll be there, obviously, on Sunday afternoon. What are you expecting to see in this game?
I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good test for us to see, are we actually sort of, I don't want to say title contenders, because that's a bit presumptuous, but I mean, are we actually the real deal? How good are we looking?
Yeah, are you a top 3 side or a top 5 side, I think is a sort of...
Yeah,
rather than thinking, we're going to win the league, yeah.
We're without 2 of our big forwards in Satai and Manu Mao. But interestingly, although they are massive losses, we've got people who have got a lot of first-team experience that can step up and step into those positions.
And it's St Helens' last game before the World Club Challenge, so they're not going to be rushing back any of their players.
No.
And so there'll be no Wormsley for starters. They won't be rushing Coote back. They won't be rushing Percival back from whatever wrist injury or whatever it was that he picked up last week. They won't be rushing. Knowles is maybe the one that might be making an appearance, I think, back in this side, which I think will be a boost actually. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've gone for the record-beating drop girl to be the one that wins it for us. So I've gone for us by a point.
Blooming heck, I've done the same. Oh, I've gone for FC by 1 as well. Yeah. I just feel like they'll want to play an intense game, St Helens will, and they'll play very well, but at the same time, there will be an aspect of holding back because they've got a bigger game the following Saturday. And even with a couple of your new signings out that have been very sort of impressive, especially Liggy Sow.
He's playing.
Satai. I'm quite excited that he's missing the Wigan game as well, to be honest, if I'm honest with you. But some of your big forwards are out, but at the same time, like you did say, you've got other ones as well.
We can bring Gareth Ellis back in.
Yeah, he's old, but 2 weeks is enough for him to recover for a game.